Welcome to Creepy Vibes. Tonight we're traveling deep into the shadows of California. But this isn't about Hollywood lights or beachside sunsets. This is the California they don't put on postcards. The one whispered about in gas stations off forgotten highways. Where something's always watching, and the air feels just a little too still. These are 3 disturbing true horror stories, pulled straight from the haunted heart of the Golden State. Stories of silence where there should be sound, of things that mimic the living, and of places you'll wish you never knew existed. But before we begin, here's something eerie. Most viewers make one simple mistake. They watch, they get scared, and they leave without subscribing. Don't be one of them. Smash that subscribe button right now, because fear is always better when you're not facing it alone. And trust me, what's waiting tonight? You'll want backup. Now tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Because here at Creepy Vibes, the night never sleeps, and neither does what lives in it. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let's step into the darkness together. Bodega Bay was supposed to be peaceful. That's what Linda and Jack Harper told themselves as they rolled down the winding roads in their old blue Subaru, the Pacific Ocean glinting like silver just beyond the cliffs. After 35 years of teaching in Oakland, they'd finally retired. No more lesson plans, no more early mornings, just ocean breeze, wine country weekends, and each other. They found the cottage by accident, a small, weather-worn place tucked off the main road, hidden behind overgrown hedges and a rusted mailbox that leaned like it was drunk. A for sale sign hung crooked on the porch. No photos online, no flashy listing. Just a phone number and a sense that the house had been waiting for someone. The price was a steal, almost suspiciously cheap. The realtor, a tight-smiled woman named Renee, brushed it off. "It's just old," she said. "Needs love." When they asked about the previous owner, Renee hesitated. An older gentleman, bit of a recluse, moved out suddenly. They bought it 2 weeks later. The first month passed like a dream. Mornings with coffee and fog. Afternoons fixing up the garden, evenings with wine and jazz on the porch. Jack called it their second honeymoon. Linda started painting again. It felt like their reward after a lifetime of hard work. But then came the first full moon. It started with a smell, something wet and metallic, like rust or old pennies. Linda noticed it first coming from the living room. She followed the scent and stopped cold. There, dripping slowly from a crack near the ceiling, was blood. Deep red. Thick. It slid down the wall in slow, deliberate streaks. She screamed for Jack. He came running, half thinking she'd found a rat or a leak. But when he saw it, when he saw the wall bleeding, he stopped short. His face went pale. What the hell? They thought maybe it was a sick joke. Maybe the previous owner left behind some weird plumbing issue or hidden pipes. Jack climbed into the attic. Nothing. No burst pipes. No rodents. No sign of anything at all. That night, the bleeding stopped. The next day, the walls were clean, as if it never happened. They tried to forget it. Told themselves it was a one-time thing. Stress. Imagination. Maybe some weird moisture issue. Linda didn't sleep that night. Neither did Jack. Then the next full moon came. This time all the walls bled, from floor to ceiling. Crimson tears ran down every room. The bathroom mirror cracked down the center. The kitchen cupboard slammed open and shut like angry mouths. And from somewhere deep inside the house they heard something breathing. Slow, wet, hungry. They tried to leave. The front door wouldn't open. They tried the back. It was stuck, like someone had nailed it shut from the outside. They called the cops, but the phone only played static. Jack tried his cell phone, but it showed no service, even though Bodega Bay had always had coverage. For 3 nights they were trapped, and then, just like before, it all stopped. The bleeding vanished. The house was clean again. The doors opened like nothing had happened. They didn't leave. They should have. But something about the house pulled at them, whispered to them, promised them peace. If only they stayed. Jack started forgetting things. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, standing in the hallway, hands covered in blood, staring at the walls. Linda caught him whispering to someone in the kitchen, someone who wasn't there. One morning, she found a message scratched into the living room wall. She tried to ask Jack what it meant, but he just smiled, slow and strange, like he'd heard a joke only he understood. Linda started sleeping with the lights on. A week later, a local handyman stopped by to drop off supplies. He knocked. No answer. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, the walls were bleeding again. And on the living room floor was a fresh painting, one of Linda's, signed and dated just the day before, showing the cottage from the outside, with faces staring out of the windows. Faces with black eyes, empty mouths. Jack and Linda Harper were never seen again. The realtor put the house back on the market the following spring. Price dropped even lower. Just needs love, she told the next couple who came to look. The bloodstains were gone. But under the carpet, if you pulled back the wood just right, you could still see it carved deep into the floorboards. And now neither have they. Griffith Park doesn't look haunted. It's all sunlight and joggers and dog walkers, tourists snapping photos near the observatory, and kids laughing on the trails. Even at dusk, when the sky turns that soft purple and the breeze smells like pine needles and dry earth, it still feels safe. But anyone who's lived in LA long enough, really lived here, knows that Griffith Park has teeth. There are stories, the kind that people laugh off when the sun's up, but get quiet about once the shadows start to stretch. The kind that hikers whisper about after too many drinks. The kind you start to believe after you see something out of the corner of your eye that shouldn't be there. This story is one of those. It starts the same every time. Dusk, just before the sun disappears behind the hills. The trails go quiet, the birds vanish, and the wind picks up. Not strong, just enough to make the leaves twitch like fingers. And then, you see them. Kids. Maybe 6 or 7 of them. Standing between the trees off the main trail. They don't move, don't speak, don't blink. They're barefoot, always barefoot. Clothes are simple. White shirts, dark shorts, old-fashioned. One runner swore they looked like Depression-era school uniforms, like something out of a black and white photo. Their skin is pale, like paper that's been left in the sun too long. Their hair hangs limp. Their faces are blank. But their eyes follow you. They don't turn their heads. They don't shift their feet. But their eyes, they track you. Step by step. All the way to your car. Sometimes farther. The first public report was back in 1987. A woman named Arlene wrote a letter to the LA Times that was never published, but a copy still floats around Reddit and local ghost forums. She said she'd been jogging near the Ferndale Trail when she saw the kids. She waved at them, thought maybe they were from a nearby school group, but they didn't wave back, didn't even blink. I felt like I was walking past mannequins, she wrote. Only mannequins don't make your stomach drop like that, and mannequins don't watch you walk away. Arlene said she got to her car and looked in her rearview mirror, and there they were, at the edge of the trees, closer than before. She didn't go back to the park after that. Over the years, the reports piled up. A guy from West Hollywood saw them near the old zoo ruins. Said they stood around the empty cages like they were waiting for something. A teen from Burbank got lost one night trying to take a shortcut through the park. Claimed the kids followed him without moving. He never explained what that meant. A hiker named Miguel said he left an apple on a rock near the children, just to see if they'd react. The apple was gone when he came back. In its place was a small, bloody handprint. Here's where things get weirder. There was a fire in Griffith Park in 1933. Most people know about it. A brush fire that broke out during a conservation project. Hundreds of teenage boys were working that day, clearing trails and planting trees as part of a New Deal program. The fire moved fast. 29 were killed. Dozens more were badly burned. Some of the bodies were never recovered. The official records say they were presumed dead. But locals had a different theory. Those boys never left, one old park ranger said in a podcast a few years back. The fire got in them, burned away everything but the silence. It's always the same number, too. 6, maybe 7. Same height, same clothes, same dead eyes. Some people say they're the spirits of the lost boys from the fire. Some say there's something else entirely. Something older. Something the fire woke up. In 2019, a YouTuber named Danny Kim went looking for them. His channel was full of urban legend videos, haunted places, ghost hunting, cheap night vision effects. He never found much. Until Griffith Park. He posted a 12-minute video titled, "We Found the Silent Children, Real Footage." It's still online, though the final 90 seconds have been blurred and muted, due to legal reasons, according to the description. The footage starts normal. Trailhead, sunset, Danny and his friend Chris cracking jokes. Then they go quiet. The camera pans to a cluster of trees. You can see the kids, still as statues. Chris whispers, "Dude, they're not moving." Danny walks closer. The kids don't flinch. He waves. Nothing. Then on the unblurred version, a child in the center tilts their head, just a little, and smiles. Not a happy smile. A knowing smile. The rest of the footage is a blur. Running, heavy breathing, someone yelling. The screen goes black. Chris hasn't appeared in a single video since. Danny hasn't posted in years. The comments are filled with theories. It's fake. Look at the shadows, they don't match. This is real, I've seen them too. They followed me home. Because that's the part no one talks about. The after. See, some people don't just see the children once. They see them again. Weeks later. In places they shouldn't be. In their rearview mirror. Outside their window. At the edge of the grocery store parking lot. A man in Eagle Rock called the police after seeing a barefoot kid just standing in his backyard at 2 a.m., staring up at the second-floor bedroom. By the time the cops arrived, there were 6 of them, all standing in a line at the edge of the lawn. They vanished before the officers reached them. No footprints, no sign they'd ever been there. But the man's dogs refused to go outside for a week. So now you know. If you're jogging through Griffith Park at dusk, and the wind gets quiet and the birds go silent, pay attention. If you feel like something's watching you, it probably is. If you see children in the trees, barefoot, unmoving, don't wave, don't speak. And whatever you do, don't look back. Get to your car, drive home, lock the doors, and pray that their eyes don't remember your face. Because once they do, they'll never stop watching. And one night, when the moon is high and your lights won't turn on, you'll hear the soft sound of bare feet on your driveway, and it'll already be too late. The sign buzzed overhead like a dying fly. Old Hollywood Motor Inn. Vacancy. Caleb's hands were shaking on the wheel. His car was down to its last gallon of gas. His phone was cracked from where he'd thrown it after a casting call gone sideways. And his checking account balance read $3.76. His last real acting job had been a deodorant commercial shot 9 months ago. This was it. He pulled into the lot, past flickering streetlights and sunburnt palms. The motel looked like it had been forgotten by time. 1960s architecture, stained stucco walls, empty windows like dark eyes. The kind of place where you didn't ask for Wi-Fi. You asked for clean sheets and prayed there weren't bloodstains underneath. He walked up to the front desk. The lobby was lit with a single bulb that buzzed every few seconds. A woman sat behind the counter. She looked like she'd been working there for centuries. Long, dry hair, gray roots, eyes dull as cracked marbles. She didn't smile. "Cash only," she said. He gave her all he had. "Room 136, she said, handing him a key. Not a card. A key, the old kind with a giant brass tag. "Last one on the left." "I just need a few nights," he said, trying to sound normal. She didn't answer. As he turned to leave, she added, "Don't cover the mirror." "What?" She didn't look up. "That room's got rules." Room 136 smelled like wet carpet, melted plastic, and something sweet rotting beneath it all. There was a single bed with a sagging mattress, a wooden dresser bolted to the wall, and a massive mirror above it that stretched nearly from end to end. The kind of mirror that showed too much. Caleb sat on the bed, rubbing his temples. Outside, the city was a hum of sirens and muffled traffic, but in here, dead quiet, like the walls were drinking up the sound. He stared at the mirror. His reflection stared back. His eyes looked wrong, sunken, hollow, like he was watching himself from inside a tunnel. That night, he dreamed about being underwater, drowning. But in the dream, it wasn't water. It was glass, thick and cold, sucking him in. On the other side of the mirror, someone else was there, watching, smiling. He woke up sweating. The lights were off, though he could have sworn he left them on. His throat was dry. His lips cracked, and the mirror was fogged up. One word written in the glass, like a finger had dragged it through the condensation. Caleb. Not Caleb. Caleb. Like someone trying to spell his name but not quite getting it right. He tried to leave the next day, packed his things, walked out to the lot. His car wouldn't start, not even a click. His phone, dead, refused to charge. He asked the clerk to call a tow truck, and she just looked at him. "Room 136, right?" He nodded. "You check in, you stay. That's the rule." He laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Back in the room, the mirror seemed bigger somehow, like it was swallowing the walls around it. He tried covering it with a towel. When he woke up, the towel was neatly folded at the foot of the bed. He tried taping cardboard over it. The next morning, the cardboard was gone. Once he turned off all the lights and sat in front of the mirror in the dark, phone flashlight in hand, determined to catch it doing something. That's when he heard it. His voice, from inside the mirror. Low, soft, twisted. "I'm you. Let me out." Days bled together. The motel clerk wouldn't speak to him anymore. He hadn't eaten. Time warped. He'd fall asleep for minutes, or maybe hours, but always wake up feeling worse, more drained. He started hearing laughter from the mirror, sometimes screams, sometimes both, layered on top of each other. Then he noticed the scratches, thin claw marks at the base of the mirror. At first just a few, then more, then dozens, etched deep into the wood like someone or something had been trying to climb out. He counted them. There were 35 scratches. He checked in 35 days ago. One night, the mirror began to drip. Not water, blood. Thick, dark, sticky. It ran down in slow rivulets, pooling on the dresser. The room smelled of copper and rotting meat. Caleb tried to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He saw his reflection step forward. Except, it wasn't him. It looked like him, yes. But the smile was wrong. Too wide. Too many teeth. Its skin was perfect. Its hair full and neat. Like an improved version of Caleb. And it was knocking. From the inside. "I'm ready," it whispered. "You're not needed anymore." The next morning, a different man left room 136. Same face, same clothes. But his eyes just were new, shiny, bright, too bright. He walked to the front desk. "I'm checking out," he said. The clerk looked up. She saw it immediately. Her lips trembled. "You let it out," she whispered. He smiled. "No," he said. "I let me out." Caleb's body was found 6 months later behind the mirror when the motel was finally shut down for a building code violation. They said it had been there for years. Mummified. His nails were bloody. His fingers worn down to the bone. He'd clawed at the back of the mirror until he bled. There were 65 new scratches carved into the wall behind him. One for every day it took the thing in the mirror to replace him. So if you're ever in Los Angeles and feel the urge to save a few bucks with a cheap motel, skip the old Hollywood Motor Inn. Because room 136 is still there, still waiting, still watching. And the mirror? It remembers your face. Once it sees you, you belong to it. Forever. The first thing you need to understand is that body remembers everything. It remembers the blood spilled in saloon fights, the cries of children buried in shallow graves, the miners who went in and never came out. It remembers promises broken and vows that ended in gunfire. The desert wind carries it all, every secret, every scream. And worst of all, it remembers her. Carter Briggs thought he'd seen it all. Abandoned hospitals, cursed graveyards, asylum ruins out in the woods. He'd built a solid following online by hunting ghosts and staging jump scares with his buddy Jonah behind the camera. Only now Jonah was gone, quit after their last job. Said he saw something real. So Carter went solo. Body was just another creepy place to conquer, right? He rented a 4Runner, packed his drone, camera gear, a few freeze-dried meals, and hit the road. The plan was to stay overnight, film enough for 2 videos, and maybe even crash in one of the old buildings, spook the fans, rack up the views. Body didn't mind visitors. It minded people who didn't show respect. He arrived just past noon. The sun was hot and high, but the wind had teeth. It cut through his jacket like a whisper in a church. Carter parked just outside the gates and grabbed his gear. At the edge of the path, he saw it, a single white shoe, the kind brides wore in the 1800s. Weather-worn, rotting, nailed to a fence post. He filmed it, laughing. "Look at this creepy-ass wedding shoe. You know you're about to see some ghosts when the footwear shows up first." He didn't notice the wind die down behind him, or the whisper in the brush. Body is quiet, but not in the way empty places are supposed to be. It doesn't feel abandoned. It feels patient. Like the buildings are watching you back. Carter wandered through the schoolhouse, old saloons, a half-collapsed barn. His footage was gold, sunlight hitting dust motes like spirits floating midair. He even got drone shots of the cemetery on the hill, little crosses casting long shadows over cracked headstones. Then he made the mistake. He laughed inside the church. "Oh yeah," he whispered, aiming the camera at the pulpit. "This is where the ghost bride got stood up, right? Hope she's not still pissed." That's when the crying started. Soft at first. A breath, a sob, coming from the back pews. He spun around, nothing there. But it didn't stop. He turned the camera off. Suddenly, the silence inside that church was louder than a freight train. The locals used to say her name, back when people still lived nearby. Clara Halloway, 17 years old, daughter of a merchant who ran the general store in Bodie. She was set to marry Matthew Harker, a young miner with sky-blue eyes and a mean streak hidden behind a preacher's smile. On her wedding day, Clara waited in that church for hours. Her bouquet wilted. Her mother wept quietly in the back. The sun set. Matthew never came. Some say he died that morning, buried alive when Shaft 12 caved in. Others say he ran off with a saloon girl from Bridgeport. Either way, Clara walked out of that church barefoot, veil dragging behind her like a shroud. She disappeared into the hills. A week later, a prospector found her dress hanging from a tree. The rest of her, no one ever found. That night, Carter set up camp inside the old hotel. The air was ice cold now, though it was supposed to be 60 degrees. His equipment glitched, batteries drained faster than they should. He reviewed his footage in bed. There, in the corner of the church frame, just a flicker, a figure in white. Not quite solid, not quite gone. He paused it, zoomed in. The face was blurry, but the eyes, black, deep as coal mines. Crying blood. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. 3 slow, heavy raps. He stood, heart in his throat. "Jonah? Is this some kind of prank?" No answer. He opened the door. No one there. Just the wind, and a wilted wedding bouquet lying on the porch. You don't laugh in the church. That's the rule. And Carter, cocky little thrill chaser that he was, had broken it wide open. Like most of Bodie's ghosts, Clara doesn't ask for much, just respect. A moment of silence, an apology whispered on the wind. He gave her none of it. That night he dreamed of a wedding. He stood in a dark church, pews filled with faceless people, the air thick with incense. At the altar was Clara, hands folded, veil stained red. When she looked at him, her eyes bled. "Say yes," she whispered. He couldn't move. She stepped closer, dragging something behind her. It looked like a rib cage. A man's, cracked open like a coffin. "Say yes," she begged. And he screamed himself awake. At dawn, Carter tried to leave. His 4Runner wouldn't start. The engine was fine, battery new. But it was like the vehicle itself was frozen in place, like the desert had its hands around the tires. He hiked down the road instead, thinking maybe he'd find a signal. That's when he saw her, standing in the middle of the road, veil fluttering in the still air, her mouth open in a soundless wail. Her black eyes poured blood. He fell to his knees. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know. I was just trying to..." She vanished. When he stood again, the 4Runner started like nothing had happened. He never posted the video, locked the footage away on a hard drive, tucked it in the back of a drawer. But the crying didn't stop. It followed him to motels, to the city, to sleep. 3 weeks later, a maid found him in a Las Vegas hotel room, curled up in a bathtub full of blood. Eyes gone. Scratched out note in his lap. She said yes. I said nothing. Body's still there, just sitting in the high desert, dust blowing through its bones. And sometimes, when the wind dies, when the air grows cold, people say they hear her crying. Some see her walking the aisles of the old church, bouquet clutched in skeletal hands. And if you visit, if you feel eyes on you, Say you're sorry, even if you don't believe, because she does. And she's been waiting over 100 years for someone to finish the ceremony.